Hello and welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Juliet.
And I'm Andrew. Hello.
Hello, Andrew. It's been a while. It's been 121 episodes since you were last on Beacon of Creation, I believe.
Yeah, I did the math, and that sounds about right. Oh, it's scary when you put things in that number. I don't like hearing that it's been that many weeks because I feel like it was just yesterday. But I'm excited to be back. I'm
There are a few of those that were like 2-episode weeks, so that's probably fine. It was probably just like a
okay,
month
okay,
ago. Yeah.
okay. That helps a little bit. But yeah, I earned my place as a judge instead of as a competitor this time. I'm excited.
Absolutely. So today we're going to be reviewing our November design challenge, which was Nov-Embermage, design a red mana dork. And it had 2 bonus points. Those were Nov-Embermage, its mana value plus power plus toughness equal 9, and No-Embermage, give it a leaves the battlefield or dies trigger.
I'm excited to get into these. I also took on the task of doing this so that I can also be ripped to pieces. So I know how hard it is to make all three of these line up in a way that still feels like a magic card that could responsibly see a printer.
Mhm.
So I'm excited to dig into what other people have done. Red mana dorks are a fun kind of card.
Yeah, it is. They aren't, strictly speaking, new to this year, but they are new in the sense of, yeah, we're gonna be printing them all the time now. They are just like a standard part of what Red gets very
hmm
frequently, and that's kind of novel space in a way that feels like the equivalent of we're adding, a card draw or counterspell thing to a new color that little creatures that can add mana is a big part of historical green.
I think it's fascinating. We have Sisters of the Flame, which came out in the dark in, I believe that was 1994. Yes. So we had one from the dark. And then in Magic 20, M20, we had Chandra's Embercat as just a proper tap, add red to your mana pool.
Mhm.
It came with a little condition on Embercat, but wow, 25 years later, they decide, what if we did this again?
Let's jump into our designs submissions. Our first submission is from Dragon of the West. It's Inspiring Immolationist. It's 2 and a red for a 0/3 creature human shaman. It's an uncommon with tap. Add red. This creature gets +1/-1 until end of turn. When you spend this mana to cast a red spell this turn, untap this creature. When this creature dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target. A spark of creativity to set the imagination ablaze. Huh.
I like this design. It's one of those designs that you got to read it once or twice to make sure you're getting everything correct, because we're adding a mana, we are shifting our power and toughness, going from an 0/3 to a 1/2, and then if I cast a red spell using that, I get to untap this and then potentially go up to a 2/1. Then if I do it a third time, we lose Inspiring Immolationist. So maybe we don't do that. But well, actually, if you hold on, how does this work? If you do that again, it gets +1/-1 and then dies and then deals 3 damage to a target. So I guess that if you can do it 3 times, that you're getting the full value out of the death trigger.
Mhm. You've got a lot of potential upside if you can get all of your things to align. You've gotten 3 +3 mana out of the bargain, +3 damage out of the bargain, and you only lost 1 creature, and you cast 3 spells, which I think you're probably doing pretty well if you're casting 3 different spells.
Yeah, so if we're casting exclusively bolts, then we've hit our opponent for 12 on turn 4, which is feels pretty good.
And if you can't quite manage the 3rd spell in a turn, I think getting 2 mana out of this each turn really isn't too terribly bad. That's
if
a
you
it's an okay
and
bargain.
if you want to go sicker, there are a lot of power boosting instants and sorceries in red.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
going, I am blanking on names off the top of my head, but you
Bull
tap
Rush.
yeah, you tap this Tap Inspiring Immolationist to give it +4/+0 or something. I'm sure that's a card. Or
Mhm.
+3/+0. Tap it again, give it another +3/+0. Tap it again. We're dying as a 9/0.
Yeah.
Feels pretty
Bull
good.
Rush for the listeners who don't remember, a card kind of maybe on par with One with Nothing. Bull Rush is a single red mana for an instant common from World Wake with target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. That's it. That's all the card does.
Yeah,
Just +2/+0 for a card.
when I first sat down, I was ready to say that this card was, like, really complicated for what you get out of it, but now that I'm actually thinking about it, I think it's actually complicated and really good.
Mhm. There is a nice thing that if you can either give this haste or if it survives, like, at least the first turn cycle, even if your opponent, like, targets for removal and you don't have, like, any red mana to spend, like, worst case scenario, you tap this for red mana that just disappears, and this becomes a 1/2, and then you can
Right.
ping something for 1 point of damage. Like, that's not the worst thing. If I had,
Mm-mm.
Llanowar elves that, like, could ping something when it died, I would be pretty happy with.
Turn 3, you cast this. Turn 4, you tap it. You cast a red 5-drop ahead of schedule, and then you get to swing with a 1/2 that, what's it threaten to do? It threatens to eat a 1/1 token. It threatens to eat the opponent's Llanowar Elves. It threatens to trade with a 2/1 or a 3/1. And then after that happens, you ping their soldier token anyways. So I think that this is complicated and complex, but really good. Much better than I
I
was giving it credit on its face.
Do you think this qualifies for the number 9 challenge for mana value plus power plus toughness? Because it does start with mana value 3 and toughness 3, and it does die with power 3 and toughness 0.
The problem, so I don't I'm gonna be a stickler. I'm gonna say it doesn't,
Mhm.
just because we get 6 between the mana value and the O3. But then as you change through, it's just the same 3 is being redistributed.
Sure. Mhm.
I think that it's cheating to try, cuz to say that it gets the 3 power, cuz where'd the toughness go? Hey, where's that
It def
toughness?
it definitely has a great dies trigger that ties into the other one. Thanks for
It
that
absolutely
submission,
does.
Dragon of the West.
Yeah, I'll take the next one from the first Goken. We have Firewater Friends. It's 1 and a red for a creature, a goblin druid, that has tap to add red. If Firewater Friend entered this turn, add 3 red instead. Well, but how are we gonna do that? Well, that's because it's got Blitz. For 2 and a red, if you cast this spell for its Blitz cost, it gains haste, and when this creature dies, draw a card. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. So the Dragons of a not Dragons of Atarka, the Dragons of
Riveteers.
Tarkir ability?
You're thinking of Dash, I believe. Blitz is the
I
Riveteer's
am.
ability from Streets of New Capenna, very similar. But yeah, this is a 3/1. It's a
Yes.
3/1 for 1 in a red, and then its Blitz cost is 2 in a red. So if you count the Blitz part, that's 2 plus
Mhm.
4 plus 3.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 if you count the Blitz, or if you count the 3 mana being added. Hmm.
Yeah,
It's
I
iffy
think
on
the
the
Blitz is
9, but, I'll
it.
let's it's iffy. Let's see if other ones, get us to 9 naturally, and if they don't, then I think this one counts.
Sure, sure. What do you
I
think of add red on a, 1 in red, 3/1 classic? Red loves to make their their
Mhm.
2 mana dorks 3/1s, but you
Yes.
can spend 2 in a red to put this on the battlefield and then tap it for 3 red?
Yeah, I like that Red has not stumbled into, because the developer, like designers and developers do
Mhm,
this. I like that Red has occasionally said our mana dork is a 3/1. I feel like that's something that we don't typically see in green, where they tend to be
mhm.
either 1/1s or like they get to be more defensive with things like Sylvan Carry added or the 1/3. I know I played a lot of the 1/3 that had energy attached to it in Teamer energy decks. I played that deck a lot. Please don't hate me, but I like that red gets more aggressively slanted mana dorks. I think this is an interesting design. I like that it can be, as a blitz creature, it can either just get in there for 3 before you sacrifice it, or you're being used to chain it into something deeper. Um, it could be scary if you're able to tap it to add a lot of mana and get a way to sacrifice it to draw the card that you get off of blitz early. that could
Mhm.
get a little scary in the styles of strategy like a storm deck or something like that. But also, if you're going through the cases to make that work, you're using other cards to do it, and like you've planned for that and made it a real strategy. And I like that kind of. I'm okay with something being strong if you really got to go through hoops to get it, and I think
Sure.
that's a worthwhile hoop to get that. Tapping to add
So thinking
3
about
is a lot of mana, though.
thinking about, like, you pay 2 and a red, put this on the battlefield, tap it to add 3, and then you cast something like Infernal Plunge, which is it's like a dark ritual in red, but has a cost of sacrificing a creature. So
Mhm.
you are trading the Infernal Plunge for a new card because you're drawing the card off the Firewater Friend, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 5 red mana. But if you're spending a card to sacrifice this, then you could have just used what that card would have been as the card that you're casting, so it, like, maybe would be
Right.
okay. I think
It
yeah.
it also is it's paying for its own blitz cost. So if you it's turn 3, I
Ooh.
tap 3 mana, I play Firewater Friend, I tap it, I play Firewater Friend, I tap it, I play Firewater Friend, I tap it, I play Firewater Friend. I've got 3 mana. I'm trying to think, is there a way that I can untap them all and get a lot of mana out of that? Is there a way that I mean, you use that extra 3 mana to play Anger of the Gods and well, actually they wouldn't die. This card asks
Mhm.
questions, and I like it when cards make me ask questions like that.
You chain these with, Burning Tree emissaries, I think,
Mhm.
and then you cast Grape Shot, and this is in, like, a cube or a limited format maybe where that's good enough that you
Yeah.
can, like, Grape Shot for 7, and, yeah, that's pretty good.
I think that could be alright.
Mhm,
I it is intriguing that you can do all of that, and then at the end of your turn, you are gonna refill your hand, which I think is a
mhm.
fascinating part of Blitz being the mechanic on this. Just being able to say, "Great, I've dropped 4 of these, and then I do have to sacrifice them all, but I get to replace them," which is it's not nothing in a deck that is doing something like this.
I think Blitz is also a really fun way to answer the bonus point for the dies or leaves the battlefield trigger because within Blitz is when this creature dies, draw a card. So
Mhm.
that's a thing that this goblin doesn't always have, but a mode you can turn on if you think that that's the operative thing. And you can also just play this for 1 and a red for a 3/1, tap and add a red, which, like we've seen on Sunset Strike Master and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
That's a pretty standard rate.
Now, also, thing with the Goblin Druid, this does combo with Intruder Alarm. I don't know if anyone's ever said that before. Um,
This is the first card that combos with Intruder Alarm in all the
wow,
Magic, though,
everyone
so
check your bulk boxes, see if Intruder Alarm's in there. We're go to MTG, the finance subreddit and
yeah,
start
yeah.
posting now.
Thanks for the fun submission. Our next submission is from Juliet. Speaking of Streets of New Capenna, it's Jetmir's Revel Nexus. It's
Mhm.
1 in a red for a rare 2/5 legendary creature demon wall. It has defender and put a -1/-1 counter on this creature. Add red if you haven't yet this turn. And whenever a creature you control with Defender dies, it deals the damage dealt to it this turn to any target.
I think Juliet's cooking with this one, whoever they are. I think that I really like the second line here of put a -1/-1 counter on this creature. Add red if you haven't yet this turn. I like that bit of tech as a way to get around the is Wall of Roots
Yes,
problem?
yeah, I mean,
Not
this is
problem,
definitely
but
based on Wall of Roots, the classic old 1 in a green 0/5 defender with put a -0, -1 counter on this creature, add green, activate only once each turn, which keeps
oh, I
being
guess
reprinted because it's a extremely useful card, even though it uses a clunky counter not used anywhere else in, like,
yes.
modern day Magic.
I did forget that that also has activate only once each turn. Jetmir's
Mhm,
Revel Nexus is kind of interesting because you can repeatedly activate it to kill the Revel Nexus whenever you'd
mhm,
like.
mhm.
So if you take I guess if you take 4 damage, you can say, "Great, I'm gonna add a red and then deal 4 damage to any target," which I think is an interesting use of the card. I also think that by following the Wall of Roots style, you've elegantly figured out a way to make it add up to 9 while also not being While not being a mana dork that somehow has 3 power and 3 toughness.
Uh, so this, of course, is 2 mana value and 2 power and 5 toughness
Mhm.
on a defender that very frequently is really a 1/4 or a 0/3 or smaller as you keep putting, the counters on and keep using the mana. If you have cards you can play both on your turn and on opponent's turns, the mana starts adding up much more than if you only have cards to play at sorcery speed.
Something that I like about this design also, I when it hits the field initially, it's a 2/5, and so it can soak up 5 points of damage, or it can soak up it can healthily soak up 4 points of damage, I guess is the way to word what I'm trying to say. But then once you've activated it once, now it can healthily soak up 3, and then 2, and then 1 as you make the creature smaller and smaller, and you also reduce its ability to kind of fight back against the things that it's blocking.
Mhm.
But you also, with the way that you have that second ability worded, you do have the option of just saying, you know what, I'm gonna block your 4/4, and then I'm just gonna blow it up, and I'm gonna blow up my Revel Nexus by adding a mana, and then putting that the rest of the damage to kill the 4/4, or dealing 4 to your face, or targeting the other creature you've got on the field. I think that's an interesting way to work around with this card.
Yeah, yeah. This card, of course, is for my fun little set that I've been working on, which is called Star-Crossed Lovers of New Capenna, which is,
Okay.
I think,
I did
my pitch. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I also thought that the Nuka Pennon, the direct tie into a plane is interesting because I feel like a lot of, myself included, I feel like a lot of times when we go like, great, time to design a card, it's like let's make generic instead of trying to focus it
Mhm.
on a plane or something like that. I think that's really neat.
Yeah, yeah. My very, very quick pitch of Star-Crossed Lovers of New Capenna is, like it
Yes.
sounds, it is a, like, Romeo plus Juliet between various mob families and, like, angels and demons falling in love with each other when they shouldn't, and all sorts of, like, low class, high class, Titanic sort of stuff, but on New Capenna as a way to, like, sequelize in a fun, weird way.
Very sick.
Gotta
I
love the
like that idea.
romance.
I like that idea, and
And
I like a return to New Capenna. I justice for New Capenna. New Capenna was cooler than people gave it credit for.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Andrew, are you ready to read the next
Oh.
submission from Xena Distraction Incarnate?
Yeah, let me get some stretches in real quick. All right. Forge Worm, 3 in a red, for a creature worm. It is a 1/1, and it has the ability when Forge Worm dies, add red, then create a red 2/2 lizard creature token with, when this creature dies, add red red, then create a red 3/3 Drake creature token with, when this creature dies, add red red red. Then you may pay up to 9 red, create a red XX dragon creature token with flying, where X is the amount of red paid this way. And I gotta say, at the very end of the card are a lot of quotations and sub-quotation marks to really figure out which creature has which ability and where that all ties in together.
Mhm.
I love punctuation. This is a very wordy card. It feels like a neat red play on there's
Reform?
a is it Reform? I was gonna say
Yeah.
the commander card that is that summons bigger fish each time.
Mhm. Reform is a 0/1 that when it dies creates a 3/3 blue fish, which when it dies creates a 6/6 blue whale, which when it dies
Mhm.
creates a 9/9 blue kraken. And instead, Forgerum is a 1/1 that creates a red mana and a 2/2, which creates
Mhm.
2 red mana and a
And a
3/3, which creates
3/3.
3 red mana, and then you can pay however much mana to make a big dragon.
I think that one of my little bits of critique here, I know it says you can pay up to 9 red. I wish it said 6 red because I like the idea of finding a way to chain all 3 creatures dying together and then saying all of this mana slots directly into the Forge Worm itself to make a big dragon. You get to play around with 3 extra mana without doing that to make a 9/9, which I respect and I think is a way of trying to say that we fit the November 9 theming here. But I like this with, I think 6 would feel a little more thematic or flavorful in that.
Mhm. I
Or I'm
can see
trying,
it.
okay, so we get a worm, then lizard, then the drake that has when this so okay, when it dies, interesting that when it dies you can choose not to make a dragon. Or I guess you can make a 0/0 dragon, so it would die
Mhm.
instantly, but it still gets made. If you wanted to just say, "Great, I got 3 extra mana, lightning bolt," you can you can do something else with it too, which I think is interesting.
Yeah. I think having a potential higher top end available to you helps make up for the fact that if the Drake dies on a different turn from everything else or at a different combat step or anything from everything else,
Mhm,
the biggest you can make is like a 3/3 out of just the mana available to it. So this would be a 1/1 that turns into a 2/2, which turns into a 3/3, which turns into a 3/3,
mhm.
which is I think, it does gain flying, in its dragon form, but that is a much flatter curve of growth than 3/3 into 6/6 into
Six
to
six to
9/9.
9/9, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also I like this kinda design. It feels like maybe it just kinda looks like one, but if you actually think about it, it's not. But it does make me think of things like a Figure of Destiny style effects where
Mhm.
you're always evolving into something a little bit more. With these, you're not really paying in to make that happen, but I don't know, I always like the way that you can take a card and have it evolve like that. I think that 4 is about the right cost for a card like this, but there is something to a card that you get to kill 4 times that it
Mhm.
does make them weird and sticky. I know that Reform made its way into an arena cube once, and I was surprised at how hard it was to deal with because every time you deal with it, it comes back bigger.
So this certainly has a plethora of dice triggers. My question for
Mhm.
you, Andrew, is this a red mana dork?
That you know what? I appreciate you throwing it to me so that you don't have to be the mean one. I don't think this is a mana dork. It makes mana when it dies, which is not it's not mana dork behavior. This is mana jock behavior. We're turning into bigger things and adding more mana as we go. This is a mana jock, and I'm not sure that I respect it as a mana dork. But I appreciate the effort, and I respect it as a card.
This is, Su Chi behavior. Do you remember Su Chi?
No, I don't. What is Suchi?
A card from Antiquities. It's a
Oh, of course, of
a
course.
4 generic mana 4/4 that when it dies adds 4 generic mana, which used to deal you 4 damage most of the time, but nowadays doesn't because we don't have mana burn anymore. Just looked it up. That's a $100 card.
This is a
Wow.
cool card. I kinda like this. Nowadays, it's just all upside, yeah.
Mhm.
Dang,
Yeah.
throw this thing in the, thing that you sacrifice creatures to add 2 colorless mana. What is that called?
Is that Phyrexian Altar or the other one? One of
Yeah,
those.
it's an altar, yeah.
Great.
I just Googled altar. Yeah, there's a lot of those in Magic. What am I thinking, Andrew?
Uh,
Let me
yeah.
jump back. Yeah, throw this thing on Ashnod's altar and just let it come back. Give me 6 colorless mana. Who needs
When
Tron?
you make sure you have the syntax right, for a Scryfall search for that, we call that an altar call. Uh,
Boo okay, I'm moving on to the next card.
our
Plum
next
Tree
submission
Chloe.
no, our next submission is from VT Basemat. It's Phoenix of Paradise. It's a single red mana for a 0/1 creature bird with flying and tap, add red. When this creature dies, exile it with 2 time counters on it, and it gains suspend.
I like this a lot. I like so unlike Birds of Paradise, one of the things that red mana dorks have kind of been stuck with is that they only tap for red mana, which I think is correct for red slice of the color pie. So I like doing a twist on Birds of Paradise, but it's a phoenix, and so you only get the red, but then also when it dies, it'll come back a couple turns later. The cynic in me says, "What do you mean it's using time counters? Shouldn't we be using the mechanic of the set it's in? Because that's how they design other phoenixes." But I really like this as a suspend creature that comes back with the counters on it. It plays well with suspend, being that when suspend creatures come back, they come into play with haste so that you can tap at that turn for a mana as well.
Mhm.
I
That's a
I
great
like
point.
that. I think this is just a good, clean design. It doesn't add up to 9, it adds up to 2, but I think that
Well,
hmm?
if
Okay, Galaxy Brain, hit me. Show me that math doesn't exist.
Okay, you cast this on turn 1,
Okay, 1.
it dies.
Yep.
Then turn 3, it comes back in. We've spent 1 red mana, it's now had 2 total toughness in the game.
Okay.
It dies again.
Sure.
Turn 5, it comes back in. It's now had 3 total toughness.
3 total
You
toughness, 3
proceed to do
total
this
mana,
exactly
and we've only used 6
8
time
times.
counters, which hold on, let me grab my abacus.
I really like the fact that this ties in, like, the classic idea of birds of paradise, which probably would not be printed, like, for the first time
Oh,
today, but
absolutely
is,
not.
like, it's a part of Magic's history. And tying it into the fact that red now gets mana dorks, and, oh, what is a red bird for us? Oh, a red bird is a phoenix.
Yes.
Oh, what does a phoenix do? A phoenix comes back. And suddenly, because we now have this, like, kind of new or at least novel utility type of creature in red, we now have a thing that we can have die and come back that doesn't just have to be like hasty, tons of power, little toughness, like, sort of thing, which I think unfortunately phoenixes kind of have to be
Yeah.
for most of Magic's history. And so there's something really fun about this that, like, yeah, it can keep coming back like a phoenix, but what it is it's like 1 mana that you can have on on some turns, and your opponent's removal can, like, take that mana away very briefly and have it come back, which is, I think, much easier to have a 1 mana phoenix that apocryphites itself back onto the battlefield each time.
Yeah, I think this is a good, clean design. I like it a lot. This feels like
Mhm.
a card that could be printed in something like a Modern Horizons or something, where we're making designs that do call back to past Magic design without necessarily needing to take power level of current standard sets into account. But I also think this happens without breaking
Mhm.
modern, so all around a good design.
Yeah, thanks for the submission.
Thank you. Plum Tree Chloe sends in the next one. They send in Treasure Elemental. This is 3 in a red for an artifact creature, a treasure elemental. Love a card whose type line is the same as its name. Whenever this creature is dealt damage, create a treasure token. This creature has power equal to the number of treasures you control. And then it has the classic treasure: tap it, sacrifice it, add 1 mana of any color. And it is a star 4. So the number of treasures, power, and then 4 toughness. This
Mm.
is interesting.
Oh,
What's up?
okay, so because its power is equal to the number of treasures you control, if you don't have any other treasures on the battlefield, this begins as a 1/4 because it itself is a treasure and it is counting itself towards that.
Yes,
So it starts as a 4 mana 1/4, and 4 plus 4 plus 1 is 9.
I'll take it. And luckily, this thing never makes any other tokens, so it never changes. It's never not 9. No, I like that. We hit 9. We
Mhm.
hit the other themes. Is it a mana dork? It's a treasure.
You can tap it to add a mana of any color.
Well, yes, but you do. I got bad news for you about what happens to the elemental along the way. I'm gonna say that if you tap a creature and sacrifice it to add the mana, it does still count as a mana dork. Mostly because I know what I've submitted this time, so I'm gonna allow
Sure.
it.
I need to print a card that says, "When you sacrifice a creature, first deal 1 damage to it 12 times," or something. Like, the people go like, "Wait, why?" You're like, "Oh, see, it combos with treasure elemental."
Right, exactly.
I really like the idea just from a kind of just the concept of a card and how a good concept can make mechanics easier to, like, remember on the battlefield.
Mhm.
This is like a big treasure guy, and when it gets hit, some of the treasure flies off of it and becomes its own. It's a big pile of coins and goblets and swords and stuff, and, oh,
Mhm.
you knock part of it off and, "Oh, here's some coins." And so whenever it's dealt damage, it it creates the treasure, like, that just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The fact that then it gets stronger the more, like, other treasures you have around is like, sure, I guess it's angry because it wants to get those treasures back
Mhm.
into itself, maybe?
I am a little concerned about the card just because I know that in Commander, treasure is really easy to get, I think. I
Mm,
know that treasure can be kind of a scary mechanic in Commander, but I think that this is a really cool card in limited or in even in like a standard. I think that this could be a fun it's a the kind of blocker that's like a roadblock more than it is a shut everything down. And I really like that kind of I don't know, we're playing a card to say, hey, you got to get through this. You probably will. And when you do, I might, hey, actually, I can take damage, or instead I'll just sack this to get a mana to do something else on my turn, which I think is cool. You can use this card to kind of plan other turns, which I like. But it also disincentivizes an opponent from attacking with more than just its stats, which I think is also cool.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm facing down a treasure elemental where no other treasures exist, if I've got 2/3/3s, I could attack with both 3/3s and say, let's push through some damage and try to do that. But if I do, then you're starting to get more mana advantage. You're starting to get your treasure elementals getting stronger. It makes people ask questions of themselves in a game of Magic of what is worth it and what isn't worth it, without being just a one-sided, oh, this shuts down combat or something like that, which I think is really strong.
Yeah. I don't think I'm too terribly worried about it because it's coming down at 4 mana,
Hmm.
but, while this is a very fun blocker, I'm also kinda interested in this as an
Sure.
attacker because I'm swinging in with my, like, 1/4 or 2/4, and, hey, do you wanna block it? Because, your creature will probably survive the combat, maybe they'll just bounce off of each other,
Hmm.
but I get a treasure out of the bargain. How much is, like, 1 or 2 points of your life points worth, like, me getting or not getting a treasure? Do you want to chump block this and just have the creatures bounce, or
Hmm.
is this also kind of a evasion in its own way
Hmm.
too?
I'm also
Mhm.
sure that there's no danger in letting artifact creatures exist that can sacrifice themselves for effects to gain mana.
Sure.
I bet you can't do anything with that. Nothing immediately jumps to mind, but I know that that's dangerous territory. Um, but I think that being 4 mana does kind of prevent it from fitting into something like eggs, which traditionally cost, let me check the notes, 0. So at 400 times the mana investment, I don't think this one quite fits in there. But I do think this is a really cool card. I'm with you. I like that it can be attack or defense and still be an interesting card both ways.
Mhm. And heads up to make the, only the power and not the toughness rate based on the number of treasures so that you don't accidentally
Sure.
crack a few of your treasures and then have this just die because it has some leftover combat damage on it.
Right.
So that's always heads up.
Mhm.
Our next submission is from Pat. It's Gobzin G0 dash B7N, like goblin, but like
Mhm.
funny robot-y. Anyways, comma, mana forager. It's 1 in a red for a 4/3 uncommon legendary artifact creature goblin robot.
Okay.
When Goblin attacks, add a red mana. If you would lose unspent mana, that mana becomes red instead. Goblin can't attack or block unless you have 3 or more unspent mana. Huh.
This is interesting.
So in turn 3, ideally, I play a 3rd land, and I can tap those lands in order to, like, let's say, put some mana into my pool,
Mhm.
and whatever color it is, maybe it's already red, it becomes 3, and it just sticks around, and so then I have enough mana to then have Goblin attack in, which then adds a 3rd. So that means on turn 3, I do have, like in my second main phase, 4 mana available to spend.
There is You do leave yourself open though to like with that same that turn 3 you're describing. Turn 3, you tap this red mana, you go to combat. Then beginning of combat I say, "Cool, lightning bolt your mana forager." It
Or just block because it has to attack to turn on the red.
well, I guess on
Flash in a
But, like,
blocker.
on turn 3, in order to attack, it gets that, and then yeah, I guess, or blocking, if you're able to
Mhm.
kill the mana forager, then you don't get that mana in the end step, so you've kinda paid 3 mana to attack for 4 damage, which isn't a great rate, but it is that kinda high risk, high reward play style that I think Red really likes, even if it's not the spikiest of, plays to make or the most risk-averse plays to make, which right in Red's wheelhouse, I do like that.
Mhm. This as a 2 mana producing legendary creature, I think has a definite playability in commander sort of things. I know, is it Rada Heir to the Keld is the red and green one. Obviously, being red and green,
Mhm.
being able to go 2 mana producer commander into 4 mana, like, ramp, I know is a big
Mhm.
like, that's a kind of archetype of thing. This one, you'd have to be doing that in mono red, but I think some, like, the 4 mana impulse draw treasure maker sort of things would be reasonable things to try to ramp into, or you try to keep the mana around and then on turn 4 be like, "Here's my 6 mana stuff." Uh,
Mhm.
this is my only 1 or 2 drop is this, this commander who I just wanna keep recasting maybe?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Red has been doing some interesting stuff lately with just unspent mana in their mana pool and kind of hoarding mana,
Mhm.
but not as lands, as just like floating mana in the mana pool. I know that we don't call it that anymore, but like I
Mhm.
guess we still call it the mana pool. We just don't refer to it in cards. Is that
Yeah, I think that's right.
okay?
But yeah, firebending definitely is been playing in some of that
Hmm.
space, and then I think some of the cards, I pull that mana a little bit
Yeah, I know
further.
that the Spider-Man set had the Electro card that was in similar ways of
Sure.
caring about that. I know that green and like Prufix used unspent mana stuff before too, but it's an interesting place they've
Mhm.
been leaning in lately, and I think that this is an interesting part of that. I do kind of wish that this was a more traditional mana dork. I wish instead of that first line, I kind of like the idea of it tapping to add red. Then you would get a little bit of utility out of it not being able to attack. You can say, you know what, let's use this to as a mana source, but also you can do things like, you know what, let's save this here. We can tap it, add that, and then use it, spend it later instead of because right now it needs to attack to add the red, but it needs 3 or more in order to use it. I kind of like the idea of it saying, you know what, if we don't have it here, maybe we can float something at the end step and then move it forward as we get to the rest of the turn. I don't know. I know that's not the card is
Sure.
printed, but I'm curious about how that might play instead. I think that's I
Uh,
as it
mhm.
as it currently
Like
exists,
more of a mana battery that I'm giving up attack now in order to power up my ability to attack next turn because 'cause I've, like, added the mana in advance
right.
from a normal turn.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
know, you can do that instead of the usual benefit of a mana dork is great, I get to drop this and the next turn I just get to go more ham with my mana. Here it's kind of a what if we, we're charging up, but we're saving it for later, which doesn't feel very red, but it's a way that red can use mana. I think it's interesting. I think it's a cool card. But I think
Mhm.
it's
It also,
go ahead.
the I think this is a fun thing. Setting up the challenge of mana value plus power plus toughness equals 9, I knew that it would mean we would be seeing some different designs, and I think this is kind of an example of one of
Mhm.
those because it's, a 2 mana 4/3, but then we've got these restrictions, limitations. A question I have for you is, do you think this has a leaves the battlefield or dies trigger?
It does not, so therefore
Except it kinda
I
does?
mean, yeah, when it dies, you lose all of your mana is kind of an unspoken dies trigger. I don't know if that counts. I do think cards that have unspoken things about them are kind of interesting, but
Mhm.
I don't think that I can count this for the sake of the prompt, but I appreciate the bend.
Thanks for the submission, Pat.
Thank you. Next up, we have Eint, who has submitted Bone Flame Mage. 2 black and red for a creature skeleton wizard. Love a skeleton with a job. It is a 3/3 that has tap and sacrifice another creature to add black red. I I still stumble when I don't say to your mana pool at the end of add mana.
Mhm,
If that
mhm.
mana is spent on a creature spell, it gains haste and death touch until end of turn. And then if whenever another creature dies, if it wasn't sacrificed, untap this creature.
Huh.
There's a lot to chew on this one. I like the idea of red mana dorks. I like it when red provides mana that gives haste because then it feels like their mana dorks are kind of like a volleyball player kind of setting so that another creature can spike. And I kind of like the idea of Bone Flame Mage saying we're gonna get rid of the creature that we had before. We're adding 2 mana to our field. We're playing it possibly a 7 drop, which is a little scary to ramp from 4 into 7 on the next turn. So I'm a little worried there
Mhm.
by getting 2 mana here, but a 7 drop that now has haste and death touch. That's a solid set into a spike. Is it too strong? I don't know. I'm not in play design, but I do think it's an interesting idea.
I'm very thankful that the extra ability of whenever another creature dies, if it wasn't sacrificed, untap this creature.
Yes.
Otherwise, every time it'd be like, well, the tap part of the card doesn't really function because it's just tap sacrifice and then immediately add the mana and untap
Right. Yeah.
it.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
just trade that if you don't have that, this just becomes this just becomes alter on a creature, which is a scary concept.
I talked about the idea of strong, specific flavor helping in this way, and I think weird flaming skeleton guy who walks up to your other creature and just goes, "Ha ha!" and sets them on fire so that you can see their skeleton like they've been electrocuted
Mhm.
in a like a cartoon, like that sort of thing, and then, like, that, like, death fire energy, like, comes up from the flaming skeleton corpse of your other creature, and, like, just does that each turn, maybe sometimes multiple times a turn,
Yeah.
is fun. That's like, yeah, I want a flaming skeleton guy to maybe sometimes attack the opponent, but to also just walk up to other creatures and go, "Aha!" and set them
Mhm.
turn them into
Mhm.
flaming skeleton piles.
Well, and
That's fun.
I do like while it has an untap ability, there is also a bit of a built-in limiter to that because it sacrifices another thing. You now play a creature with haste and death touch. So you're now attacking with
Mhm.
that creature. If it gets blocked, that creature's presumably dying, which means that Bone Flame Mage untaps that turn. In that case, you
Yeah.
can't tap it again to play another creature and do that again because you don't get another combat. And so I like that that's a bit limited, but this does have the potential to tap for 4 mana in a single turn, 2 of which will probably be spent on a creature, but that is a bit scary. Having multiple tap and untap stuff. Now, you're limited by what other creatures you own on the field. You're limited by the actions that happen over the course of a turn. So it's not like it's an unlimited thing. But this is the thing that really feels like it in a limited game. This is going to break open stalled board states very quickly by saying I'm going to trade my 1/1 for whatever you're going to spend to block this, and it's going to die regardless because I've got Death Touch.
Yeah, very fun, kind of combination of ideas. I do the fact that this also triggers on opponent
Hmm.
creatures things makes me go, "Oh, I wonder if that mana is spent on a creature spell it gains haste and death touch is like a distraction from, like, just you should be using, like, instants."
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And just, like, I'm just gonna be full of 2 mana, instants or weird little 4 mana
Hmm.
things when 2 of my opponents, one of them kills 2 of the other opponent's creatures in combat or something, and then I can just go, "Okay, ding ding,"
Hmm.
do do something like that. Our next submission is from Hong Kong, it's Wobbles the
Uh-oh.
Goose. It's one-hit wonder, 2 in a red for a 5/1 creature elemental bard. It's an uncommon with trample, and when this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it. At the beginning of your next main phase, add red for each damage dealt to a player by a bard this turn.
Hmm.
So here we've got I think a pretty different way of making 9, which is 2 in a red for a 5/1,
Yeah. This
and we're hopefully attacking in and trampling over 3 or 4 damage, maybe up to 5 damage if the opponent doesn't have a blocker
yeah,
of any sort.
this is one of those cards that I love in theory, but I get scared because you look at this and you go, "Oh, what if I hit this with a Become Immense?" And then at the next turn, I'm gonna like, great, I'm gonna now have like, what is that, 11 mana if I already hit you for 5. I I I don't know, things get scary. It's
Mhm.
I think this is scarier than it looks, but it is also it's very fragile. So it's one of those cards that kind of like I don't know if you get hit by this, it's kind of your fault. Like you didn't have a blocker, you didn't have a removal spell, you couldn't deal a single damage to this thing. But if it does hit, it's very scary. It's good that it's not repeated unless you use one of the cards that like was played in the grief scam decks in Legacy where you get to
Oh,
that
yeah.
style of card where you get to say whenever this dies, bring it back, because then you get one hit wonder will always it comes back with lifelink or whatever. However those cards come
not
back.
dead after
Yeah,
all sort of,
exactly.
and it goes, yeah. Mhm.
Then it becomes very scary because you get this guy back. He's got 5 power, and then he says, "Great, I'm still here." Which then you get a 5/1 blocker, which is also a really scary blocker.
I do love, though, tying this together with the name One Hit Wonder
Mhm.
because, yeah, you want to get this to hit your opponent once, and then you might get up to 5 mana out of that bargain. You might have, 9 mana that turn, or you might just have enough to, cast your 6 drop and I don't know. We don't pay for mana leaks these days, but you know what I mean. Pay for a mana
Mhm.
tithe, I suppose.
Oh,
Uh,
I need to jump back. I am just now realizing
mhm.
this has built-in trample. I was thinking that we would have to
Yeah.
go through a single hoop to give this thing trample. This is scary.
I do think, though, you want to fill your deck with A, maybe some other bards, that's fun,
Mhm.
but B, maybe mostly, like, 6-ish drops? Maybe you wanna be trying 7s, but I think ideally, you're trampling over something with 2 toughness, and so then you're getting 3 extra mana out of the bargain, so you can be having, like, either 6 or 7 mana available in turn 4. I
Well
think that's the kinda use case I'd build my deck around
well,
for
if you
that.
have other bards in your deck, then so presuming you've got, like, 1 drop bard, 2 drop bard, I don't know, I'd have to look up bards that exist in Magic. 3 drop, you play One Hit Wonder, maybe even 4 drop, you play a bard with haste. It adds red for each damage dealt by a bard this turn, so it becomes a, do I block the one hit wonder and try to prevent 5 whole damage so that they don't get, all 5, they don't get mana equal to as much damage as
Mhm.
dealt by bards. So I try to just soak up damage from other bards so that if this thing's gonna hit me anyways, they only get 5 mana, but saying your opponent only gets 5 mana is such a scary phrase to say. This is a card I feel like we would have to manipulate some of the stats to, and I feel like it's a 5/1 to hit the prompt of the design, but I think to actually see play, we'd have to fiddle with these numbers a little bit.
Maybe you're probably right. I do think sometimes the difference between like, okay, you end up with 6 or 7 mana, including the ones from your lands on turn 4, or you've got like 12 or 20 mana, like having 12 or 20 mana doesn't always like actually help you win the game
Sure.
compared to 6 mana if it's just on a single turn. And so I think I'm not worrying about the wild case where you have a bunch of other bards, because like, okay, well, if you're doing that, your card quality is low enough that you maybe aren't also casting Karn the Great Creator into like a a 12 mana combo or something.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah.
I do I
Yeah.
do wonder if we're building around I know that there is a
Mhm.
bard-centered, uh custom Magic design thing that is happening in this server. I don't know the details of it, so I apologize if I'm either stepping on a design space that someone's mentioned or if I'm talking past something that exists. I do think there might be kind of cool if there was, presuming a bard focused set, if there was like a song subtype of spells or something like that. Um
Mhm.
if we could limit what the mana could be spent on. If it said, add this and use it to cast song spells or use it to cast whatever bards can do or activate abilities of bards. I think that there could be some, I think that could be a useful uh 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 power valve. But um
I wanna go the other direction. I
okay,
want a single red mana sorcery that says, "Deal 3 damage to target player," that is kindred sorcery bard.
sure.
I want bard type non-creature spells that deal damage specifically to players.
That or just fire bard. We're just gonna deal at X red deal X damage. You can
Yeah,
tap your bards
yeah.
to help pay for it to add 2 to each one or something. And then you
Mhm.
get to sing
Talk about
Pitbull when
one-hit
you do it.
wonder. Andrew, who's your favorite one-hit wonder?
Oh, that's such a tough question to get hit with out of the blue. Um,
Don't worry, don't worry. I mostly wanna say, Carly Rae Jepsen, not a one-hit
I
wonder.
was gonna
Was
say,
listening to, I'm listening to some Dedicated, and Dedicated Side B recently, and some of those songs are just, like, as good as Emotion Side B.
Oh, yeah?
For the true
Right.
Carly Rae Jepsen heads
Yeah, sounds
out
good.
there in the audience. Thanks for the submission, and,
Thank you,
that is 3 plus 6, that's 9.
that's 9. I will move on. We got a submission from James Dalton Bell, who sends in Reckless Sparksmith. That's my kind of card name. 1 and a red for a creature, a goblin druid. At common, it is a 2/1 with haste and tap to add red.
Yeah.
That's a red that's a red mana dork. I'm not gonna lie, I respect this. This is a simple, it's one of those cards that is simple and in a way that you're kind of surprised they haven't done it yet. I feel like a red mana dork with haste feels natural, and I'm surprised we haven't seen it.
Yeah. Do you remember Sparksmith, the card?
I might if I look it up. Let me.
I don't expect anyone to because it extremely
Oh.
makes me feel like a boomer. It is a very important card in Onslaught Limited, which is it's a 1 in a red for a 1/1 creature goblin. It can tap and it deals X damage to target creature and X damage to you, where X is the number of goblins on the battlefield. It is a like absolute like battlefield control monster that
Mhm.
also sometimes kills its owner if you are a child and not necessarily a tactical genius, which certainly happened. Anyways, it's just fun
There
to see, like, coming back, 20 plus years later, Sparksmith.
there is certainly someone who has played a Sparksmith thinking, I have 3 goblins. I'm gonna play, and I've got 5 life. I'm gonna play this and then kill their goblin. And they play this, and then their opponent goes, "Ah, it's the number of goblins in play, and I have 2, which means that Sparksmith kills
Uh-huh.
you too." That is absolutely the way that a game of Magic has ended, and I love that I love that that's a thing that I'm certain has happened.
And so this reckless Sparksmith, instead of dealing damage to you, instead has haste and adds mana and has an additional power. It's a classic guy. My
Mhm.
only problem I do have a problem with
Okay.
this card, and my only problem, I don't think it's a druid.
It doesn't feel like a druid.
I don't
I
I don't think Reckless Sparksmith is a name that I would assume, like, to attribute to a druid.
Well, I feel like actually, you know what? I agree with you, but I'm gonna walk it back a little bit. I feel like
Mhm.
when you're turning something into a mana dork, I feel like you want to add a creature type that like um um denotes attunement to something. It's not just you
Mm,
attuning to
mhm.
the land around you, it's also this creature. This creature can do the same thing that you as a planeswalker can do. And unless it's something specific like a battery mage or something that like where it's drawing the energy to, it's kind of assume that it's from the land. And I think if I remember right, they're kind of rolling back usage of shaman. Am I remembering right?
Yeah, yeah, that's a thesis that at least I think we've certainly put forward in this survey.
Okay. I feel like druid has kind of become a natural replacement of that in a lot of places.
Sure.
But otherwise, I feel like you want to give it something that points out where it's attuned. And I don't know, and maybe that comes with flavor of the Sparksmith has a big old battery, just a big D cell on his back that we say that okay, it's an artificer or a wizard, but I kind of
I just think it's an artificer because, like, if you're making sparks, that's technology. Like, even if you're just, like, flint and tinder,
I
like, that's
yeah, I'm looking at Sparksmith. He's got a little wheelie thingamajig that he's not attuned to it, but he's making sparks, so I think you could be right.
Mhm.
I
As the flavor text for the original Sparksmith says, "If it didn't hurt, how would I know it worked?"
I also I like it when Reckless Sparksmith has a pretty simple fallback of turn 2, I play a 2/1 for red, I swing in, I hit you for 2, and then next turn, now that you've played a blocker for that, I go, "Whoa, buddy, I'm just gonna tap for mana." Mwah, I love it. I
Mhm.
love red. Red gets the job done sometimes, and I really like that. Just say, I like that. I think this is a
If
simple design that it is surprising to see that it hasn't been done yet.
I would make one tweak, I
Mhm.
think, and again, I'm just thinking the name. What if this attacked each combat if able? And so you could always
Oh.
stop it by tapping it for mana in your first main phase, but, like, you just need to commit to either doing that in your first main phase or having it attack in. Like, and so the first turn you play it, you can play it, you know, your second main phase or anything like that. But ultimately, like, hey, one way or another, it's gonna end the turn tapped.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah.
foreshadowing, I like having mana dorks with haste because then you can tap them the turn they come in, which is
Mm.
is inherently a limiting design of other mana dorks, especially in green. And
Mhm.
I kind of like red saying, Actually, you can just pop this off now because you've already spent mana to cast this, so it's not like you're getting that huge benefit of um you're not getting that like additional benefit that you would if
Right.
you were playing this if this was already on the field or coming in for free. But yeah, um, I if I could make one change to this, I would make it a 2/5, and then I would give it a on death ability so that it hit uh all of our criteria. But otherwise, I think this is great.
I just want to remind the audience we have a main challenge. The bonus points are
They are
optional. They're
optional.
fun. As my co-host Andrew famously coined the phrase "restrictions breed creativity,"
Yes,
and
I'm often saying this.
our,
My original phrase.
we got a lot of submissions this month and a lot to talk about. So we're splitting these into 2 episodes. Catch the other half next week. But before then, the end of one design challenge marks the beginning of another. Our December design challenge is December the Titans. Design a creature with an enters and attacks trigger. You know, like
Ooh,
the Titans from Magic the Gathering.
December the Titans is so good.
We've got 2 optional bonus points this month. We got Remember the Titans. Your card features reminder text. And Titan. The card name begins with the letters SN.
Eagle-eared listeners might figure out which one of us submitted which bonus point.
And those submissions are going to be due January 2nd. So you've got a little bit of wiggle room after the busy holidays. Andrew, what's your favorite Titan from Magic the Gathering?
My favorite Titan is I got a lot of work with Primeval Titan.
Mhm.
We did a Final Fantasy Sealed League over at Moonshot Podcast Network on our Twitch stream. Sorry,
At twitch.tv/Moonshot
I'm
Network.
starting our plugs a little early. You could have gone to moonshot.move. But we did a sealed league, so we added a pack every week. And in my opening pool, I had a prime time, and I was like, you know what? If one of these is good enough that it has its own nickname and gets banned in Commander, it's probably pretty good. And it turns out it was. And then the second week, I opened a second prime time. So I have gotten a lot of work out of prime time in limited specifically, which I don't think is most players' experience with prime time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm also going to call back to the original Titans cycle, and I'm gonna pick Grave Titan, a card that, I don't know, a long time ago saw constructed play in Legacy specifically.
hmm
It'd be in Veteran Explorer decks, and you could use the tokens as, like, Cabal Therapy fodder. I think A, Death Touch is fun on a 6/6.
Yeah.
B, enters or attacks, create 2, like, just, like, chump 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. I think that kind of helped create some new space for the, I say modern era, I don't know, the last 20 years of, kind of black zombie token creature creating.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
give I love any card that has an ability that feels like it's kind of useless, like, oh, your 6/6 has death touch, you say. It happens a lot with death touch where you're just like, oh good, your 7/4 has death touch. I'm so glad it can kill my thing. Uh
And then it comes up.
yeah. I do want to give
Turns out we sometimes have many creatures on battlefields.
I do want to give a special shout out to a card that I'm sure is a lot of people's first thought when they say your favorite Titan in Magic. I want to give a shout out to Erebos's Titan
Mhm,
from Magic Origins. It's one black, black,
mhm.
black. It's a giant that has, as long as your opponents control no creatures, Erebos's Titan has indestructible. And then you can bring it back to the graveyard from the graveyard to your hand whenever a creature leaves an opponent's graveyard and you discard a card. Uh, Card that I tried to make work a lot. And you might notice that it didn't quite make the top of the Pro Tour. I don't know how that happened, but I put a lot of work into Erebos' Titan that it did not deserve.
I loved Magic
It's a
Origins.
good set.
What a fun flavor forward set. Probably the best designed Lorwyn set.
It I think that it's a good set that got overshadowed by the fact that it printed at like a Jace that only held off from being $100 from sheer force of will and people saying, I'm not paying $100 for another Jace card.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think it's a good
Yeah,
set.
Jace Vryn's Prodigy. And as we've seen, lately, it's definitely not a problem to print
Nope.
extremely cheap 1 and 2 mana, creatures that flip into
Yeah,
planeswalkers.
yeah.
That's
We should explore
always
more.
safe.
We should do it more. I think
So that's our podcast for this week. You can join our Discord with a link in the show notes. Thanks for coming on, Andrew. Anything you'd like to tell people about?
it's been really exciting to be here. As I alluded to before, I'm a part of the Moonshot Podcast Network when we are doing a interesting December set of streams. Every year we started doing an 8 crazy nights of streams. This year's 8 crazy nights is going to be like 12 nights long, I think. It's the 14th through the 22nd.
Yeah. The famous 12 days of Hanukkah.
So nine so far. We'll see how it goes. But we do in addition to a bunch of podcasts, which we have a lot of great shows, moonshotpods.com. You can find all sorts of great stuff, which includes my shows, the Argonauts podcast, a podcast that is a deep dive into ARGs and other internet ephemera. The Podcast Minds, a defunct comedy podcast where my friend Riley and I pitched podcasts at each other. We Swear is going to come back any day now. And my other show is Mild Mannered, a podcast that I did with my mom. I think we're deep enough in the episode that I'm allowed to say one word, where we covered the television show MILF Manor, which was a very bad reality show about aged women dating each other's sons. So my mom and I did a recap podcast of it. It ran for 2 seasons.
Second season is more interesting than the first, so
It
you
is
should check
more
out.
it's more interesting, but way worse, which is unfortunate. Uh, there's so much potential and they squandered it. I have strong opinions about MILF Manor, I swear. Anyways,
Ain't that just the way? And you can find our streams at twitch.tv/Moonshot Network
yes, we also have a lot of
or moonshot.mov.
yes, a lot of streams and a lot of other shows. I promise I'm not on every show. There's a lot of other great shows on the network. And if you didn't like me, I bet you can find other shows that'll fit your fancy. I also make games over at itch.io/AC Sherman. There you can find Chess 2 Physical Edition, which now has upgraded graphics and 3D printable files for chess pieces. And I am going to figure out how this happens before this episode comes out.
Mhm.
I made a One Piece themed magic set based off of an arc called Marineford in One Piece.
If you want to listen to a Moonshot show that doesn't have Andrew on it yet, you can check out this winter holidays season of I'll Be Pod for Castmas, the literary look at Christmas pop culture show that I and my co-host Catherine do. That's at I'll Be Pod for Castmas, wherever podcasts are found. And this winter we are covering Pride and Prejudice, You've Got Mail, and the Lauren Gunderson play Miss Bennet, Christmas at Pemberley. My favorite One Piece arc is Hotel Dusk.
This is why we only put this together like once a year, maybe.